welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing my favorite books of 2019. So I was a little torn when I was sitting down to plan this video. I was debating on doing like just my top 5 favorite books of 2019, but then I was going through my Goodreads and looking at all of the 5-star books that I gave and the ones that were my favorite and the ones that I think I would reread, and I had so many. I think there were like 11 or 12. So I tried to narrow it down a little bit, and I was able to narrow it down to like 10-ish, and I could probably still narrow it down a little bit more. So then I was debating, should I do top favorites part 1 and part 2, but then I decided maybe I would just throw it all in one video. I wanted to do my top 5 favorite books of 2019, but there were just so many and I just couldn't choose between some of them that I decided that I am just going to do all of them. So I did not include any rereads in this video because I reread so many of my favorite books this year that in itself could be its own separate video. Like I reread Harry Potter, I reread Throne of Glass series, I reread A Court of Mist and Fury, I reread, I think, Fangirl, Carry On. I reread so many books. Like I said, it was gonna make this video way too long, and I thought it would be a lot more fun to do the new books that I read in 2019. Okay, so coming in at number 10, I have Sadie by Courtney Summers. This was a Muggle Studies book club, and we do have a live show on this one. Actually, I think we have a live show for a lot of these books. So I will leave all of that linked down below if there is a live show included, but Sadie is the only one that I didn't give a 5 out of 5 stars in this list. I did give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, but it is such a unique, and it really stuck with me that I had to include it on this list. It is a young adult thriller, and we are following 2 perspectives. We are following Sadie, who is an 18-year-old girl, and she is out to seek revenge on the man who killed her sister. And then we are following a podcast of Sadie's disappearance. I will warn you though, there is definitely trigger for sexual abuse, child abuse, violence. It's definitely a heavy book, and it is more of a thriller, not horror, but definitely thriller. You really want to know what's happening next, and the ending is very, it's an interesting ending, and it sticks with me, and it's just one of those books that I constantly think about the ending. So I had to mention it in my favorites of 2019 just because I just can't stop thinking about this book, and it was really good. So if you're looking for something a little bit outside your comfort zone, that would be one to read, especially since it's not very chunky and you can get through it really quickly. I think I read it in one day. Coming in at number 9 is All the Better Part of Me by Molly Ringgold. I adored this book so much. I think I reread it a second time after I finished it. I just loved the characters. The romance itself was so freaking cute. This is kind of more new adult, I would say, so just kind of keep that in mind. But gosh, it was so good. If you really liked Red, White, and Royal Blue, I think you would really enjoy this one. I really enjoyed it. The only thing is that the plot kind of takes an interesting turn towards the end, but it's still, I really enjoyed it. I read it so quickly. I think I read it in one day, and it's not very chunky, and yeah, I highly recommend reading this one. Coming in at number 8, I have God's Grave by J. Kristoff. Oh my gosh, this book was so good. I listened to the audiobook, and Hannah and I actually listened to like the last chunk of the audiobook together. We read it for Dewey's 24-hour readathon in April, and we were just like glued to it. We just couldn't stop listening to it. It was so freaking good. It is the second book in the series of the Nevernight series, so I am not going to go into a lot of detail, but the plot, the characters, it's about assassins and just the world building. It's so good. Keep in mind this is definitely adult, so there's a lot of violence, a lot of graphic scenes, a lot of language, so if you're sensitive to that, but if you're looking for a really good thrill, action-packed, that's like high fantasy, but not necessarily like Lord of the Rings, I highly, highly recommend reading this one and listening to the audiobook. So freaking good. Coming in at number 7, I have The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. This is a graphic novel, and this is actually the first time I have put a graphic novel in my top favorite video of the year. This graphic novel is so heartwarming and so sweet, and I've never read a graphic novel like this one. I mean, it deserves all of the stars. It was so good. It's so quick to get through because it's a graphic novel. It's not very long. We basically follow a prince, and he likes to secretly wear these extravagant dresses, so he hires a dressmaker to make him all of these extravagant and elaborate gowns, and it's just really about being yourself and just being who you are and accepting yourself, and it's just, oh my god, it's so, so good. Coming in at number 6, I have Aurora Rising by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. If you are new to this channel, then one of my favorite series is the Illuminae Files, which Kristoff and Amie Kaufman co-wrote, and then they decided to co-write another series called the Aurora Rising series, and it was not as good as the Illuminae Files, but still very, very good. I adored the audiobook. It was narrated by a whole cast of characters. They create such amazing sci-fi worlds, and it's just so seamless, and you don't actually, like, I can't tell who's writing which scene. Like, you wouldn't think two authors co-wrote this series. It just flows so well, and every character had such a unique voice to the book, and so I knew which chapter I was on. Although I was listening to the audiobook, if I had read it, I'm pretty sure I would have been able to know, okay, I'm in this person's point of view, I'm in this person's point of view, just because each character had their own voice, and it was just spot on. Okay, now we are going into my top 5, which I am so excited about. So coming in at number 5, I have The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Leigh. This book, once again, I probably read it in one day. It was a Muggle Studies book club pick, and oh my goodness, just amazing, amazing book. So this is the sequel to The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and that is one of my all-time favorite books. And in this book, we are following Felicity, which is Percy's sister, and this is the events of, like, the aftermath of what happened in The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and we're basically following Felicity's journey on wanting to become a physician. And back then, this is historical fiction, so it was set in, you know, the 1800s, 1700s, something like that. And back then, women couldn't be physicians. And so we're just really following her journey, and just chaos ensues. There's so much action. The book always, like, there's just so many surprising twists and turns in the plot of this series that you can't even begin to, like, try and think of where it's gonna be. Like, there's no way I was able to guess where the plot would go, and it just went in a direction that I had no idea, and it was amazing. Same with The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. It did the exact same thing, and it was just so, so, so good. I will definitely be rereading this one. Coming in at number 3, I am cheating a little bit, and I'm doing like a series because I pretty much read them back to back instead of having one each their own, because I gave both of them a 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm going to talk about the series as a whole, and that is the Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. We just recently read this for our Muggle Studies book club, and oh my god, this series, listen to the audiobook first of all, is so good. I mean, just night and day to her Shadow and Bone trilogy. The plot, the characters, the relationship, the magic system, just the heist, the action, the suspense, it's just all there, and it is so good. I think this is one of those very, very overhyped book, and I do think that it deserves its hype. I loved all of the characters. Nina is just such a spitfire, and she's so sassy and determined, and she's great. She's feisty. I loved Inej, Matthias, just all of these characters have such great character growth. Like, if you are looking for a series that has amazing character growth, this is it. Like, I mean, it is just amazing. And then the plot itself is just so good with the heist. Like I said, I was just like wanting to you can't put it down. You have to know what's gonna happen. It's so good. So yes, I highly recommend picking this series up, because I think for her to have created a fantasy series with an amazing plot, great character development, and such a, like, the heist in basically a 2-book series, 1,000 pages, just shows how talented Leigh Bardugo is. And coming in at number 2, I have Capturing the Devil by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the 3rd book and final book in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series, and it is just so good. I read this book in one sitting during Dewey's 24-hour readathon, and it is quite chunky. That's just how good it is. I couldn't put it down. It's just amazing. It's everything I wanted in the ending of a series. I love Carrie Maniscalco's writing. She just really talks about huge issues in today's society, but she writes it as historical fiction. So just kind of a quick overview of like Stalking Jack the Ripper. We are following Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell. They are both studying forensics with like autopsies, and they basically solve murders. If you like the show Bones, read it. It is so good. It is a little graphic as far as like the violence and like autopsies and death. So if you get a little queasy or like squeamish when it comes to blood and stuff like that, dead bodies, it can get a little graphic, but I mean, if you're able to like tolerate Bones and you love that show, read it. It is so good. The relationship between Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell has the best sass that I have ever read. Best banter, just amazing dialogue. It's so good. I'm definitely going to be rereading this series. Just my books are in storage right now, so I only have Capturing the Devil, but yes, definitely rereading those. And coming in at number 1, I've read this book probably like 4 times already this year. So good. I love romance, and I can't just not love romance, and when I read a really good romance book, I love it. So my number 1 favorite book for 2019 is going to Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. The characters, the romance, the plot is just so good. This is like what I want in a new adult genre, or like age group, I guess. Amazing. I've read this one, like I said, so many times. I read it 3 times, like start to finish. I read it the first time, I decided to reread it again, and then I read it a 3rd time, like without picking up anything else. Some of my favorite scenes. That's just how much I love this book. So basically we're following the Prince of England and then the president's son, and just their relationship and the banter and the sass and just everything. It's really good. So yes, I loved this book. So yeah, that is my long-winded video for my favorite books of 2019. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your top 3. I would love to know your top 3 favorite books of 2019, and let me know if you would rank these any differently if you read these. I know, like, it's just so subjective, your favorite books. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned because I do have my worst books of 2019, so stay tuned for that. And I will see you next time in another video. Bye!